Chapter 28. "He cut us off!" Jess shouted, and although Ellis heard him clearly, he couldn't respond. The drones kept coming. Patternless in their attack, vicious and grinning, they ascended through the corridors in large and small numbers, the tactical mentality of the hive urging them on. Attack until the intruder dies, no matter the sacrifice. Ellis had an idea. It had filtered up through the incredible exhaustion, and it was all he could do to hold on to it and fire at the same time in the smoking, screaming dark. The digital green in front of his eyes was starting to waver. When that went down, it was all over. Left, squeeze hold, stop. Right, squeeze hold, stop. Gotta cut down, drain, reintegrate system. His pulse rifle rained hot metal across the frenzied animals to the left as he sent semi-controlled bursts of flame through the corridor they'd come from. Bog bodies exploded and clattered and cooked all around them, and the distance seemed to be closing. Jess shouted into his ear, "I'm running out of ammo, Ellis. We gotta break for cover." The rest was lost in the sharp death cries of a handful of the snarling attackers, roasted alive inside exoskeletal armor. Ellis concentrated as much as he could on his struggling thoughts of the suit design. He had to feel for them, lost as they were in the burning weakness of his body and the relentless nightmare of the corridor. Tracking capabilities, scope and range sensors, efficiency calculations. They had all failed, but the computer didn't know that. It continued to feed the damaged material into his neurotransmitters. He couldn't shut down the computer, but if he could shut parts of it down. Another wave of dizziness and pain blocked out everything for a moment. Everything except the touch and pull of his fingers against the weapon controls and the ongoing screams of the sinewy, muscular drones that raced at them, wavering in front of his tired eyes. The system's data blocks were in the lower back of the Max, safely out of reach of a drugged and wired volunteer. Except they're all there. Hydraulic suspension, medical, armaments. Pull the wrong one, and it's all over. And if he could free up one hand, reach back, and flip up the panel, find a flat indentation the length of his finger, and happen across a non-essential drain on the system amidst a dozen identical indentations, there was no way. The physical interface of the suit would rip him apart before the creatures even got close. He'd never be able to manage the pain, let alone find the controls, keep firing. Another half-dozen drones boiled inside their shells and collapsed. 3 more were bisected by a strafe of the Max's pulse rifle and added to the growing hole in the hissing deck to their left. More pushed on behind them, springing across the burning mounds to get at the 2 human invaders in their stinking hive. We're gonna die, and the station will blow up anyway, and this is all for nothing. Jess fired at a single drone that leapt above the strafe of Max's singing automatic, the bullets shattering through the muted dark abdomen, and clicked to empty. But Jess will die first. There was no more time to think. Ellis acted. Talk to him. Distract him. Use his hunger. The commander didn't lower the automatic as he walked towards her in the silent room, and Lara babbled out the first thing that came to mind. "Why me, Pop? How do I qualify for survival?" She kept her voice softly confused. He stopped, stood a meter in front of her with a look of dull surprise, as if it hadn't occurred to him that she might not know. "Because I care for you." She knew, and it made her sick. But if she could push some emotional buttons, it might make him drop his guard. "I insisted you were part of the deal," Eric went on sincerely, gaze still searching hers for some measure of understanding. "Grigson could see I wasn't going to back down. He had to give in." Lara edged away from the console as he spoke, staring deeply into his eyes, keeping hers wide with feigned surprise, a girlish shock that he had taken such measures to save her. Work it. Act like he'd expect you to. The weapon followed her, but the commander didn't seem to notice the drift, too caught up in his attempt to sway her. "I'd hoped, when this is over, I'll never have to work again. The deal I got." We could work things out. We could be together. Lara's hip brushed against a table and she stopped, shaking her head, trying to look as hurt and upset as she could without letting the anger show. Eric, I don't want any part of this. It's not right. Pop's lined face turned desperate, openly pleading. You feel that way now, but in time you'll come to see that it had to be done. It's for us, Kat. For our future. Lara frowned thoughtfully and shifted her weight to one leg, using the slight motion to slip her left hand behind her. But we don't have a future, Eric. Think about it. How long do you think Grigson will let us live? Her fingers touched a flat, cold metal surface, and she froze, thoughts racing wildly as she realized what it was. The refrigeration unit, with the facehugger inside. I've got that covered, said Pop eagerly. He can't lay a finger on us. We're safe as long as we have that data log. But we can talk about it later. Right now, we have to go. He took another step towards her, and she stepped away from the unit and to one side, no longer blocking it from his view. Shit, this better work. She met his urgent, lovesick gaze evenly, and reached one hand hesitantly towards her throat, acting like a woman torn, a woman with no choice but to be in love with the man who had bargained for her life. Lara stepped forward, with wistful longing in her eyes, let him see the desperate desire to believe him, to be with him, to hurry. And then down at the refrigeration unit, letting a weary, sorrowful smile play across her features. Pulaski champagne, she whispered, and shook her head. Lara looked back into his eyes and smiled uncertainly. To our future, right? Eric just stared at her, pistol steady in his hand, and for a moment she thought she'd overplayed. And then he grinned at her, and she saw triumph and smug satisfaction in that grin. He's gonna do it. That's right. To our future, he said, and reached for the door of the unit, still watching her as he fumbled for the lock on the handle, smiling warmly. We'll take a bottle with us, and celebrate in style. The lock clicked, and Lara tensed herself for action. Hang on, boys. Jess's rifle went dry, and the Berserker suddenly went insane. The enormous warrior dropped its right arm and whipped the left around to cover. It didn't stop firing as it sprayed across, armor-piercing rounds cracking against the bulkhead in front of them. Ellis, what are you doing? Jess screamed, as flakes of metal chipped and flew, as the attacking drones gained meters of ground to both sides of them. The Max took one lumbering step forward, still whipping the pulse rifle back and forth. Jess leapt behind the suit as shattered fragments of wall sang towards them, as the aliens screamed on, closing in. We're dead. He's lost control. And Max suddenly pivoted sideways in a smooth, single motion and twisted the flamethrower back into the air, both arms raised like a crucified man. And the fists unleashed their power, and 50 meters of corridor on either side of them exploded with screaming death.